Happy Pride Month to everybody who celebrates. This video, honestly, I wanted to put out as an ally. I have a lot of close friends who are a part of the LGBT community, so this is a video that I've been wanting to make for quite some time. And this is honestly a movie that changed the game for LGBTQ inclusion in media. We're going to look at Mike Nichols' The Birdcage, which came out back in 1996. This is actually a film adaptation of La Cage aux Folles. My theater friends are probably going to be all over me for mispronouncing that title. I tried my best. This came out in 1996, the year I was brought onto this earth. I obviously did not get to see The Birdcage in theaters, and up to this point, I never watched The Birdcage. Mom and Dad, I hope you're proud of me because I finally got to it. This almost farcical movie is centered around an engaged young couple, Val and Barbara. They shakily introduce their future in-laws to each other. Val's father is Armand, played by the late great Robin Williams in one of his better performances that he turned in throughout his career. Armand is a gay drag club owner based in Miami, Florida. He pretends to be a straight man and he attempts to hide his relationship with Albert, played by award-winning Nathan Lane, who honestly, this might be the best performance of Nathan Lane's career in my opinion. He was absolutely fabulous in this movie. He has me in stitches. Albert is not only Armand's life partner, but is also the club's flamboyant star attraction. But Armand has to hide his relationship with Albert so as to please Barbara's father, who is a controversial Republican senator played by Gene Hackman. Now, if The Birdcage came out in the year 2024, it would be a super ballsy release because this is something that, it's gotten some criticism from the LGBTQ community for really highlighting these stereotypes, but it also does that when you have a conservative character infiltrating a very liberal household. That's a very gutsy movie and a very gutsy plot to put out there. But I feel like if this movie was not put out and if this movie was not as great as it turned out to be, I don't know where LGBTQ representation would be in media right now if it wasn't for The Birdcage. And honestly, thinking about it, my only real technical issue with this movie is the first act is a little bit slower paced. But that's not to say that there aren't great moments in the first act. My favorite scene is when we're introduced to Armand's son, who's played here by Dan Futterman. And the way this is shot and the way this whole scene was blocked and choreographed, you would think that Dan Futterman was Robin Williams' secret lover. You know, just the way that Robin Williams is kissing his son and the way that he's caressing his hair. I was thinking to myself, oh God, are we going to go through this type of subplot here, a liar reveal cliche? But no, it turns out that Dan Futterman is calling Robin Williams' character Daddy. I gotta tread really lightly when I say that. But he calls him Dad, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about the rest of the scene preceding it, and I'm like, that's really freaking funny. And bless his soul, Robin Williams, again, was so damn great in this. This performance honestly might not be as iconic as his work in Aladdin or in Jumanji, but this is certainly one of the more subdued Robin Williams' performances that you're gonna see. Excuse me when I say this, but the fact that Robin Williams, who's known for his improvisational technique, is playing the straight man to all this goofiness, I think this performance is super impressive. Maybe one of his more underrated that he's ever turned in. And I think his chemistry with Nathan Lane is so beautiful. Not only do you get the hijinks sort of scenes where he's teaching Nathan Lane how to walk like a man, which again, I will admit, this comedy may seem very dated, and it could be very offensive for some people. But I think it's also like if you're watching Friends, it's the way these characters deliver their lines and how they interact with one another. I think that's what makes a scene like that so endearing. You gotta walk like John Wayne. And the look of terror on Nathan Lane's face is just... Nathan Lane's a gem. He honestly steals the entire movie, and this is definitely a role that plays to his strengths in terms of the theatricality of this role, because Nathan Lane is a renowned theater actor. You could honestly argue that theater is more what Nathan Lane is known for as opposed to movies, and I think he absolutely slays in this role. But in terms of the comedic genius, let's not overlook Gene Hackman. Honestly, this guy's a legend, probably one of the most genius and brilliant satirical performances I've ever seen. Because this man has a really tough task. As a character, he's under the pressure cooker. This is a man who's up for re-election as a Republican senator. And he and his wife, who's masterfully played by Dianne Wiest, they are absolutely under public scrutiny. And then when he starts to visit Armand's house, there's a huge misunderstanding that Armand is a straight man. But then when they start to kind of put two and two together and they realize they're above the drag club and that Armand actually lives above the drag club and they start to get a little bit suspicious, that whole dinner sequence, man, pure definition of a farce. which is exactly what a movie that is built around the Kaja Fu should be. Everything, down from Nathan Lane's performance as Mrs. Goldman, Nathan Lane dancing with Gene Hackman, it's all so glorious, man. And who could ever forget Hank Azaria as Spartacus? Underratedly funny. He has to pose as the butler who is so freaking clumsy, which is a huge stereotype. If you've ever seen a farce done on stage, you always see a clumsy butler in there. And I was cracking up at him. And if you've never seen The Birdcage, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but once they come to an understanding and the liberal and conservative people come together in a sense, Robin Williams' character, a good-hearted man, he wants to get Gene Hackman the hell out of there. Because this senator has reporters on his ass, and they are circling the club. They are circling the Birdcage like hawks. Which again, might I add, The Birdcage is a perfect title for this movie, not just because it's the name of the club, but it honestly is very indicative of how these characters are in the world of 1996. But Gene Hackman has to cross-dress in order to disguise himself the hell out of there. Like, there was no other way that The Birdcage could have ended. Absolutely no other way. So overall, is the comedy in this movie dated? Yeah, 100%. Are there stereotypes that could offend some people? Totally. But as someone who has close friends who have seen this movie a million times, a good majority of them, if not all of them, have told me that they love this movie. Because without the influence of this movie, again, who knows where this representation would be today. And on a technical note, even though the movie does have a few slow points in there, I couldn't help but find this movie beautiful. It was poignant. Certainly had a lot to say, and it's a very strong movie thematically. In addition to what I think is Nathan Lane's best performance on film, it's one of Robin Williams' most underrated performances of his career. If you haven't checked out The Birdcage, I strongly recommend you do so. I'm going to give The Birdcage an A-. Mom and Dad, thank you so much for the recommendation. And happy Pride Month to all of you out there. Let me know what you guys thought of The Birdcage down in the comments section. What is your favorite LGBTQ represented movie that's out there? I love discussing all new things in the cinematic world over here on The Regular. If you stumbled upon this channel for the first time, do consider subscribing. Tap on that thumbs up as well if you enjoyed what you saw. And stay tuned for more videos hitting the channel very soon. Y'all are the best. And with all that being said, Back Talk, commence.